I had got home one night, and I was exhausted and completely forgot about the wooden planks my landlord had installed on my windows for security. Around 4 a.m., I was jolted awake by loud, violent, and deliberate banging on my windows. I'm an extremely heavy sleeper, so the fact that I woke up at all still feels like a miracle. When I looked toward the window, I realized 2 men were outside, trying to force it open while yelling disgusting threats about what they planned to do to me. As they pushed and pulled, growing angrier, the window finally opened, but only partially. The wooden plank stopped it before opening all the way. Because of that plank, only half of one man's foot made it through the opening into my apartment. They kept trying to force the window wider, but the plank held firm. Seeing that foot inside my bedroom made everything feel unreal. I remember thinking that if the plank hadn't been there, they would have gotten inside while I was asleep, and I would have been completely defenseless. I immediately called the police. The man fled before they arrived. Officers came and took my statement, and later I learned the men were found. I chose not to press charges as I didn't feel capable of going through that process. I moved out within a week to a safer apartment building. Looking back, there were red flags I didn't recognize at the time. On several occasions, strangers approached me in the parking lot and asked about my boyfriend when he visited, and whether he was there on weekends. I realize now they were trying to figure out when I was alone. Another time, I walked into the laundry room and found a man sitting in the dark, just staring at me. After the attack, I realized he looked like the one man from that night. Ironically, I was working as a crisis counselor at the time. My job was literally to support survivors of violence, but my own sheltered upbringing made me slow to recognize the danger I was in. That morning, I had been angry about the wooden planks. That night, they actually saved my life. So this story began on a late 90s summer night in El Paso, under a heat so thick that it seeped into the adobe walls. A church block party was ending and a man slipped away from the crowd unnoticed. He followed my family home. The house was alive with its usual rhythm. Grandparents in their recliners, aunts on the couch, and the television was just murmuring. Everything was locked and sealed against the oven like the breath of a desert night. 10 minutes later, a soft, almost polite knock came at my door. My aunt opened it. A man stepped inside without an invitation, smiling an easy, wide smile that didn't feel right. He said, "Hi guys." Manny just wanted me to stop by and say hi. Everyone knew Manny. He was my dad. The name was a key turning in the lock, and for a brief moment, everyone's guard dropped. When my grandfather finally asked who he was, the man didn't answer. He just stood there, his eyes drifting slowly across the living room, memorizing every detail as if he was taking inventory. "You need to leave," my grandfather said, his voice steady but edged. The man turned and walked out. A tense, listening silence settled over the house. Then the banging began, the front door shuddered in its frame as a knob twisted and rattled. "Is this how you treat family?" A loud, furious voice shouted through the wood. And then the voice changed. It slowed, deepened, and thickened, as if something heavy were uncoiling in a throat that was no longer entirely human. "Let me in," it said, calm, measured, almost gentle. "It's cold and rainy out here." The night sky was perfectly clear. "Come outside so I can carve your hearts out." "Show me your flesh. This is my domain." He repeated the word domain slowly, reverently, like a twisted prayer. He circled to the bedroom window where my grandfather was sitting and began pounding on the glass. A crack spiderwebbed outward before the window shattered. My grandfather bolted outside and picked up a rusted pipe from the yard. He swung it once, but the man was faster. The dull thunk of metal on bone echoed in the night. There was blood beneath my grandfather's eye, and he staggered back inside. He said, "Call the police." My grandmother froze, and she said, "Let's just see what happens." Outside, the man circled the house, his footsteps deliberate, his low voice still claiming his domain. Panic finally broke the spell, and my family spilled out into the street, pounding on neighbors' doors. The man walked back into the empty house. He opened the refrigerator and ate the leftovers straight from the foil. He drank from the milk jug. He jumped on the beds, spat on the mirrors, and touched everything, claiming it is all his. When the police arrived, they approached him like he was just a man, but he wasn't. He swung the pipe again, taking 2 officers down before 4 more could wrestle him down to the ground. All the while, his low voice kept murmuring, unhurried and certain. Years later, they said it was drugs, PCP or meth, something that burns the person away and leaves only a furnace of limitless strength and delusion. But in the retelling, it never quite settles on chemicals alone. Even now, my family checks the locks twice, glances at the windows after dark, and still hears, in the back of their minds, that calm, thickened voice repeating the word that never quite left them, and they kept hearing, domain. This is one of those stories that happened in my family that they just continue to tell throughout the years.